has been a busy week for the nation and for President Trump. So we're just learning this morning that Iran shot down a U.S. drone over the Strait of Hormuz. And of course, tensions had already escalated over the weekend when 2 oil tankers were attacked in the same region. The president also announced plans on Monday to round up millions of immigrants who are in the country illegally.
Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, an ardent supporter of the president, says that the border needs to be Congress's first priority. Tweeting, "America first means protecting our border from the Gulf cartel before avenging foreign vessels in the Gulf of Oman." Congressman Matt Gaetz joins us from Capitol Hill to discuss this. He serves on the Armed Services and House Judiciary Committees. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Congressman Gaetz, you were one of the first to reveal that the administration is trying to use the 2001 AUMF as justification for a potential war with Iran. You're a strong supporter of the president. What's your message to him on any potential military action against the Islamic Republic?
I am no cheerleader for war with Iran, and neither is President Trump. President Trump ran as a different kind of Republican, one that wanted to end wars, not start them. And I think that there are a lot of other global stakeholders that need to be involved in the Straits of Hormuz before we make the United States the global policeman in that particular area. For example, China receives 80% of their oil through the Straits of Hormuz. And when you look at the recent drone strike, there's obviously a lot we still have to learn. But if it was truly a high-altitude MQ-9 drone that was shot down, it is highly likely that the Iranian capabilities that were used to engage in that were purchased from China. And so I think that China's got a lot more skin in the game than we do. They need to be engaged to help us reduce Iranian aggression, and that'll make the world a lot safer. But U.S. war with Iran is not the right approach today.
Congressman, the New York Times is reporting that Secretary of State Pompeo has been making the case that Iran is connected somehow to al-Qaeda. Can you tell us more about what evidence they're providing on that front?
Obviously, Mike Pompeo, former CIA director, Secretary of State, has access to a lot more intelligence than I do, but I have not seen intel that would justify utilizing the 2001 Global War on Terror authorization to use military force against Iran. And when Secretary Pompeo has presented information, there have been other people in the administration that contradict him, that don't agree with the viewpoint that he takes regarding the connection between al-Qaeda and Iran. So he certainly knows a great deal more than I do on the subject, but that's why Congress exists, to declare war. We need to get the information that he believes justifies utilizing that rather old authorization for this new challenge.
Can you be more specific on that? Who is disagreeing with Secretary of State Pompeo on his connection between Iran and al-Qaeda?
I got to be a little careful because some of the information we receive there is in classified setting, but I can share my reaction to receiving classified briefings. And when I hear the Secretary of State illuminate one set of facts, and when I hear other intelligence officers, for example, question the connection between al-Qaeda and Iran that would access the 2001 AUMF, it certainly gives me grave cause for concern.
Well, this is very troubling for us to hear, Congressman. It sounds exactly like the 2002 and 2003 case for WMD. Are you worried that the president's advisors are trying to push him into a war with Iran?
I'm not worried at all about that because of Donald Trump's very unique leadership style. The president likes to have folks around that disagree and debate and engage in robust discussion, and that debate can oftentimes sand the rough edges off of the policy choices that we have to make. The president also likes the fact that some of the hawks on his team, like John Bolton, make our foreign policy a little less predictable, and that might bring people into the fold faster. But certainly the president should not indulge the desires of some within the administration to start 3 wars before lunchtime tomorrow. That was not how President Trump ran. He's an anti-interventionist. He knows the challenges of regime change wars, and we should disabuse ourselves of the fiction that behind every dictator there's a flourishing democracy waiting, rather than generations of chaos, disruption, and more terrorism potentially.
Congressman, you were at the kickoff for the president's rally. You're a frequent speaker. You speak to him quite frequently. What has he told you about the Iranian issue? Where's his mind at right now?
Well, the president understands that the United States cannot be backed into a corner, and the United States must always preserve the ability to defend ourselves and our allies. But President Trump also understands that we cannot always bear the cost in dollars and in the blood of American patriots to go and resolve every global conflict. And so I think the president's going to do more to engage others to try to bring a solution set to bear. But based on many conversations with the president about foreign affairs and about Iran specifically, I do not believe that President Trump is itching for war. I don't believe he wants a war, but certainly he's going to protect our interests, and he's not going to put our service members in danger by simply indicating that under no circumstances will we engage militarily. We will if we have to, but simply like the Iranians bombing a Norwegian and a Japanese tanker in the Straits of Hormuz shouldn't draw us into a war if even Japan and Norway aren't calling for war.
What should the response be to those provocations and then this latest provocation of shooting down an American drone?
Look, I think that obviously we cannot have our intelligence assets impaired in such a critical area of the world, but I think the proportional response is to leverage China against Iran. And obviously that's a three-dimensional chess game with where we stand with China on trade and on the Korean Peninsula, but China has the most to lose if we engage in another tanker war in the Straits of Hormuz. They receive a great share of their energy resources from that part of the world, and so they need to be more engaged.
Why is it, sir, that you see some of the other Republicans in Congress, like Senator Tom Cotton, already advocating for a retaliatory strike against Iran? Do you worry that that rhetoric is making its way to the president's ears? Because he might have told you one thing, but he likes to talk to many others as well.
Well, I have great respect for Senator Cotton. He's an American patriot, but he is dead wrong on the issue of military conflict with Iran. Shipping disputes in the Straits of Hormuz should not draw us into yet another Middle Eastern war. I strongly disagree with his viewpoint on that, and I think the president has foreign policy views that align more with mine than with Senator Cotton's.
And you've been a leader on reforming at least or repealing that 2001 AUMF. I know you partnered with Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna on an effort in that regard. Democrats voted yesterday to repeal that AUMF. Of course, it's unlikely to go anywhere in the Senate under Mitch McConnell. But can you give us a sense of where the rest of the Republican caucus stands on this issue? Have you gotten a lot of support from your colleagues on your side of the aisle here?
There are Republicans who are not neoconservatives, who are not interventionists. They tend to be part of the libertarian coalition of our party. But look, I mean, these circumstances that we see erupting around the world don't always get better when we go and put U.S. troops on the ground. I represent the district that has the highest concentration of active duty military in the country. And so when we have to fight, it's my constituents that have to go first and fight hardest. And I think we know a lot more today about the impacts of these wars back home in our country. And we also see that we don't always serve as the most stabilizing force when we're disrupting regimes. So I'm proud to work with Ro Khanna and other folks on the political left to try to achieve a bipartisan consensus, because if my constituents have to have the courage and bravery to go and fight these wars and die in these wars, then politicians in Washington need the courage to actually vote on them and decide what's worthy of spilling American blood and what isn't.
Final question for you, sir, since we have you. Did we learn anything new from Hope Hicks's testimony yesterday?
Absolutely not. 8 hours spending time with Hope Hicks, not a single morsel of additional factual development. And we see the Democrats trying to redo the Mueller report because they lost it. And I often wonder, how will history view this moment? Democrats accused Donald Trump of being a Russian agent for 22 months. They were wrong in that central accusation, and now they're debating impeaching him anyway. We've gone from a tragedy to a total farce, and I plan to make that argument to the American people forcefully if they continue to harass our America First president.
Well, we know you have to run, sir, so thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Next on Rising, more than 2 decades of home videos are in the national spotlight. They highlight the joy and the heartbreak of one family living 17 blocks from Capitol Hill.
Some of that heartbreak includes poverty, drug addiction, and gun violence. Director Davey Rothbart and social impact producer Heidi Nell are going to join us next to explain why they wanted to share this story.